You talked about the demining operation.
Yeah.
Was there a story there?
Oh, God, yeah. A couple. Because they didn't, like I was saying, this happened in the southwest side of Malakal, and they didn't really like us going there. And honestly, we didn't have a lot of reason to go there. The SPLA had talked directly to UNMAS, UN Mine Action Service, the deminers, about, we think we found an anti-tank mine. Well, in the past, an anti-tank mine has been a hubcap or a thing with wires or nothing. But I said, as MLOs, we should be going. So a couple of us went. Myself, I went on all three of the patrols or the trips that we took with UNMAS. So Upan and I go out. We drive to the 2nd Divisional Headquarters, meet General Bulbul, who's the 2nd Division commander. When we spoke before, it was General Kezakia Poit. He went somewhere else. And so it's General Bulbul. And, hey, we're going to go check out this mine or whatever. Yep, no problem. Great. We actually have an SPLA Hilux loaded with soldiers as our escort. Cool. So it's our vehicle, me, myself and Upan, and a liaison officer from SPLA 5 Brigade named Manwan, spelled like Magnon, but pronounced slightly differently. He just had a stomach, had been in hospital, he had a stomach illness of some sort. And then an unmasked vehicle, and then an ambulance, because just in case, they always travel with an ambulance. So we drive down, there's no problem. We are basically on the road immediately to the east of the Nile River, driving south. We get through various checkpoints, we stop at a brigade headquarters, and just kind of hanging out, and people are like, what's the UN doing here? This is kind of weird, but we were with a lot of the guys, so it was cool. And somebody said, yeah, it's over there. And it's sort of a fence, and then you had a bit of a pathway, and it was almost like a backyard. And I turned the corner, and oh my, there's a bit of a hollow, and it's like everybody just seemed to throw everything they'd found into this hollow, and it was just strewn with mortar bombs, anti-tank mines, RPG rounds, tank ammunition, boxes of 12-7, like heavy machine gun ammo, and a lot of the mortars were fused. So if there's no fuse, they're essentially inert. There's a bunch of explosive and a metal casing. You throw a fuse on it, the fuse is the smaller explosion that makes it go boom. There's a whole bunch of those kicking around. So if something had decided to go off, it hypothetically sympathetic explosions would have been loud. And so sort of looked around and went, wow, there's a lot of shit here. You're the professionals. And I just walked away, and then I was saying to Upan, we should probably move the car. This stuff goes off. Like, yeah, whatever. And we left the car, and we're just talking to guys. Spent hours doing that, and then it was, okay, we have to go farther south to check out an anti-tank mine. Okay, so we literally drive to the end of town. And if you look at a map of Malakal, there's an east-west route, more or less, that would intersect with that main route closest to the Nile that runs north-south. That was kind of the front line, just a little bit beyond that. We went beyond that. So I'm now looking at the main defensive position of the south end of Malakal. And that's stuff they normally weren't too keen on us doing. What's the UN doing here? It's cool. We have a lot of SPLA escort guys. They're fun. They're all right. So about 50 meters beyond that, there's a fused anti-tank mine. Okay, so they mark it. Oh, there's another one. So we start going on this track with grass as high as the vehicle, and we're just following vehicles. And Upan and I are like, wow. And we're maintaining radio contact, but we're getting outside of range. And we hit something called Dollop Hill Road. And literally at the intersection of this track and Dollop Hill Road running east-west, this track running north-south, there is a plasticky thing that you can just see the top of, and I have a picture and I'll send it to you. It's about as close as you and I are. And the UNMAS lead, who's a Nepalese deminer, great guy, and I are looking at it going, what do you think that is exactly? Because it's got a plastic top, a little bit of a certain design pattern to it. And he goes, I'm not sure. He brushes some dirt away from it. He goes, back in a second. Oh, you should probably move away from here. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And we did. It was a Chinese anti-tank mine, and it was fused, and so they marked it off. And then we went on Monday to So that was on a Friday. We go on Monday to collect all the stuff, the unfused things, and put it in the back of the unmasked vehicle that they could later blow up at a. There was a demolition pit that they'd set up about 2.5 clicks east. On Monday, we stop by the divisional headquarters. Hey, we're just going to go back and pick up all that stuff from where we were on Friday. Is that cool? Good to go, my friend. Not a problem. So we go, and this time we've still got man one in the passenger seat of the car. Upan's driving, I'm in the back seat. And we go, and it's Monday morning, and we get stopped, and we get swarmed. It starts with a guy stopping the car, and all these SPLA guys just fucking appear from nowhere and are yelling, and what the hell are you doing here? We don't want the UN. So there's us in the lead, then the unmasked vehicle, the ambulance behind them. And we've got an SPLA major from the same brigade in the passenger seat. It's not like we're a bunch of white dudes and there's nobody who can speak the language. And man one is trying to explain what the hell's going on. And it took a few minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Roll down the window. It's like, we don't want the UN here. I said, your general just said we could do this. This is about 3 kilometers away. Talk about communication issues. And he goes, we don't want the UN here. The UN doesn't care. So I threw up my Monday morning, but I care. And that actually stopped him. I was like, I'm not here on a holiday. So anyway, everything eventually calmed down, and then we drive, and they tried it again, like another 50 meters down the road. Somebody was waving us down, and anyway, we just drove. That was fun. And then about 200 meters, we're at the brigade headquarters where we were on Friday, doing the same shit, picking up all the stuff, driving back. That was interesting because Malakal that spring had changed hands about 7 times, and there's a lot of shit flying around. So by the divisional headquarters, there was an open field, and within 200 meters, somebody said, this is actually first thing in the morning before we got swarmed. Hey, we found a thing. Oh, cool, let's go see what this thing is. And now, of course, this time I've got to stand back because it might be dangerous. Well, Friday, like 72 hours ago, I could stand next to a fused anti-tank mine, and it didn't seem to matter. So it's a fused 122 millimeter rocket. It's about 15 feet long. It's probably about 122 millimeters, whatever that works out to in inches. And it's just lying there. And they found all this stuff when they're burning off the grass, which they do in the dry season. All the leftovers from the times that Malakal changed hands. Because strangely, arms dealers don't always sell the best ammunition to belligerents. Who knew? So much for quality control. Actually, they tried to swarm us again, but I think they'd learned their lesson, or somebody maybe had spoken to somebody. Don't recall it happening. So we went all the way down that road to Dullab Hill and that track. We had to stay 500 meters back. Very nice. And we had SPLA, who are basically our guards. And these guys are pretty tough. They don't eat, they don't drink. They just skinny dudes in camouflage with an AK, maybe a magazine, maybe 2. Of course, one guy is filming because he's apparently a military intelligence guy, just like Man 1, our escort was. So we'd all wear our UN ID, and of course he's filming, and you can only try and hide it for so much. So it's just like, I'd hold it up, film it, there. Anti-tank mine goes boom, everybody's happy. And we're driving back, and they wanted to check that anti-tank mine that was close to the front lines, because within the safety radius, they would eventually have to push people back, evacuate around the template, which didn't happen that day. But we were stopped, and literally SPLA guys would be running across the field with 2 mortar bombs, go, hey, look what I found. Stop. Put them down. Not that way. Put them down. It's cool. They were finding tons of stuff because civilian government had sort of returned to Malakal, and they wanted the soldiers out of the center of town so that they're trying to at least set the conditions for civilians to come in. So as the soldiers are moving outside of town, and given the various battles for Malakal, and they're burning off the fields, and these guys were discovering tons of stuff. Just tons of stuff. So that's the demining story. That was a lot of fun.